Welcome to the Empowerment Hour, a podcast dedicated to the woman ready to take charge of her life, live in her purpose, and be unapologetically authentic. I am your host, Nancy Ruffin, award-winning author, mommypreneur, and the self-proclaimed Latina Oprah who is dedicated to helping women unleash their power, discover their purpose, and live up to their fullest potential. My goal is to empower you, inspire you, and help you unlock your passions and discover your purpose so that you live the most fulfilled and impassioned life. If you're ready to make a change and start living on purpose, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. You are tuned in to another episode of the Empowerment Hour podcast. You know who it is. It's your girl, Nancy Ruffin. And guys, Happy New Year! Oh my God, I'm so excited to be back. And I'm just super excited for everything that comes with a new year. I mean, I know it's cliche. We always say that, every day is a new opportunity to kind of get our life back on track and to do the things that we want to. But there's something really symbolic about that date on the calendar, that year on the calendar changing. So I'm open to everything that is going to happen this year. I'm excited. Amazing things have already started happening, and we're only 1 week in. As many of you know, I had my annual vision board workshop recently, and it was off the chain. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but toot. It was everything that I expected it to be and so much more. There's something that happens when powerful women, share the same space and energy. It's as if God purposely aligns everything in our favor, meaning that He brings the right women at the right time to the right place. And then it's like magic happens. And I always find that the women that need to be in my workshops are in my workshops. And I say that because I had a number of last minute cancellations, and I'm going to say that it was probably the most last minute cancellations that I've ever had for any of my events. And what I realized is that the women that needed to be there that day to hear the messages that were being shared were in the room. And the ones that weren't able to make it, the ones that canceled last minute, will be attending my vision board workshop in February. And so I'm confident that whatever is going to be revealed in February, whatever God moves me to share, to speak about, what God moves the other women who will be in attendance to share and speak about, is going to be what the women who canceled need to hear. And so I know that for the ones who did reach out to me and were sad that they had to cancel last minute, just trust the process, ladies. Trust that you're going to be where you need to be at the time that you need to be there, and you're going to receive the message that is for you. That is how God works. He is always moving the strings in our lives. And as soon as we relinquish our desire to control every single outcome, that is when our lives start to shift and start to change. And what I find particularly interesting, especially for this event, was that I had a friend reach out to me last minute asking if one of her friends would be able to purchase a last minute ticket. And normally, I don't like to turn women away who express a desire to attend my events. So even if the event is sold out, but there's someone for whatever reason became aware of the event last minute and they really want to attend, I usually allow it. However, for the vision board events, they're so unique in that I base, the amount of materials that I purchase, the venue size, and all of these logistical things. I base it on the amount of attendees who have purchased tickets. And so once I reach my capacity and the event is sold out, I'm not able to make those exceptions just because everything is accounted for and bought based on the number of attendees. And so when my friend reached out to me asking if I could accommodate her friends, I had to say no, despite despite that I really wanted to say yes. Like I couldn't say yes because I didn't have the materials for her, and also because the space, the venue, they had accounted for the amount of women who I told them had purchased tickets. And so the way the room was set up was based on the number of attendees and all of that. But with all of these last minute cancellations, I was able to reach out to my friend the night before and say, hey, I have, some space available. And if your friend still would like to attend, she can definitely, come in tomorrow. And so I did not realize how necessary that event was for this woman. I mean, she, out of all people, really needed to be there just because of what she shared with the group. She allowed herself to come into this space filled with strangers and allowed herself to be vulnerable. She took off her mask. She really let us into her world and allowed us to see her brokenness and all that she has been dealing with, facing, and healing from. And what was particularly moving for me was that as she was opening up herself to us and pouring her heart out to a room full of strangers, that we all were sitting there listening to her, watching her, and there was this energy in the room of sisterhood. It was as if we were watching a loved one at their worst, and they felt safe in that moment, in that space, knowing that no matter what she was sharing, we were going to be there for her. And once she finished sharing her story, once she finished sharing what her vision and what her goals are for this year, one of the other attendees, who was also a last minute addition, she literally bought her ticket probably that same day, really offered her a powerful message, and I shared it on my Instagram. And she was really speaking to her ability to heal herself and why her journey was critical and crucial, because that what her purpose in life is, or that it will reveal itself to be, is to be a healer. And that was something that the young lady had shared while she was sharing her vision board and what she wants to manifest for this year, was that she wants to be able to provide support and help women to deal with the same issues that she's dealing with and that she's healing from. And so Melody, who was the young woman who was offering her, was consoling her and comforting her and just really allowing her to accept what what she's been put on this earth to do. She basically told her, God is putting you through this because it's through your past, it's through your experiences, it's through everything that you are healing from that you're going to help others heal as well. And we can't teach what we don't know. So everything that we go through in this life, whether we realize it at the moment or not, is a purposeful manifestation of the reason that we exist in this world. And, unfortunately, for a lot of us, we never realize our purpose. And so we will continue to repeat the same behaviors. We will continue to put ourselves in situations that are recycling the same kinds of experiences and outcomes because we are not learning the lessons that we need to learn from those experiences. And we go through certain things so that we can learn from them, and then we can also use those experiences to help others. And we all have that capability and ability to do that, but not many of us really tap into that part of ourselves. Primarily because we are selfish individuals. And it really takes a lot of work spiritually to come to terms and to come to an understanding that we are all here to serve a purpose. And until we accept that and start to live in our purpose, we are going to have the same experiences over and over and over and over again. So if you're currently finding yourself in similar situations, if you find that you're recycling the same kinds of experiences, if you're dating the same types of men or women, or you're attracting the same type of friends and relationships and just people into your life, that is a clear indicator that you have to take a step back and ask yourself, what the heck am I doing? And what is it that God is trying to teach me? Why does He keep sending these experiences and these kinds of people into my life? What am I not getting? What am I missing? You have to ask yourself these questions. You have to be willing to really look at yourself in the mirror and see what lessons you're not learning. Because everything that you're going through, there's a reason for it. Okay, and it's not because God doesn't love you, and it's not because you are not worthy of happiness and peace and joy. It's precisely because of those things that you're going through that. Because you have to be able to go through it in order to grow through it. But we get so hung up on what we don't have, on what we are lacking, on why we're so miserable, on why we're so sad, on what everyone else is doing, and why, our homegirls are living these fabulous lives, and why this one and that one, are living in their purpose. We got to stop focusing on the external and start focusing on the internal. Start looking at ourselves from the inside out and begin working on changing our behaviors, our patterns, on the way that we're moving in the world, how we're interacting with other people, how we treat ourselves. And this time of the year is particularly beneficial for making change, just because the new year is synonymous with change, with a new beginning, with a new opportunity. And there's so many of us that are doing the vision boards, that are setting the intentions, the resolutions, and all of these things, right? But the reality is until we really look at ourselves and understand who we are at our core, what drives us, what drives our decision making and the types of choices that we make. It doesn't matter how many goals we set, doesn't matter what our intentions are, what our resolutions are. If we're not willing to change our behavior, our lives are never going to change. We're going to keep going around in circles, kind of like a dog chasing its tail, and find ourselves at the end of the year exactly where we are right at this moment. And that's why for me, when I have my vision board workshops, they're not parties. And I understand the term vision board party and the images that it evokes. And yes, you want to get together with your girlfriends and sip on mimosas and put pretty pictures on a board. But the reality is that just pasting and gluing pictures on a board is not going to give you a clear map or plan on how to make those things happen. And so for me, when I have my workshop, I make you work. It's a workshop. And yes, there will be mimosas, okay? And we can chat it up with our girls, but we're still there to work. And I really force you to take the deeper dive into yourself. Because what people don't understand is that the images of the houses, the images of the cars, the fancy travel destinations, and all of those things that we traditionally see on vision boards that we think is what's going to make us happy is not really going to make us happy, because we can have all of those things can manifest for us. But you know what? At the end of the year, you can still feel miserable. You can feel unfulfilled. You can feel stuck. You can feel like you have no purpose, because there's plenty of people who are wealthy and who have these material items who are depressed and sad and miserable and alone. And we see it with our celebrities. Okay, we see it. Robin Williams committed suicide. One of the most successful actors of our time. Okay, a comedian, someone who by trade his job was to make people laugh, but yet within himself he was sad. It's almost like a clown. Clowns are designed to make people laugh, but really what they're doing is masking the pain that they're feeling inside. Michael Jackson was another example of someone who had it all on the outside, right, material-wise, but he was a very unhappy man, and he had a lot of problems and issues and suffered from depression and all of these things. So when we're talking about goals and vision boards and manifesting things, it's not the things that you want to manifest. What you want to do is manifest peace and joy and true happiness, right? Because once you have that, the house, the cars, the destinations, all of the fancy things, the fancy bags and the designer shoes. And that's not for everyone, because there are plenty of people who don't covet those things. But all of the material things are then a bonus, right? Because now you're just happy, and those things don't even matter to you. So that if you have them and if you gain them, great. But really, at the end of the day, I think what we all want is happiness. And so during my workshop, I make these women work. We go through tons of exercises to make sure that when they sit down to write their goals are aligned with the things that are most important to them. Because another thing that we tend to do is to set goals based on what others have deemed as success. We might set a goal that we want to go back to school and get another degree, because we feel and believe that the degree is going to provide more opportunities for us. It will give us the ability to become more marketable and command a higher income. And yes, the degree does do all of that. And there's nothing wrong with going for higher education and getting the degree if education and knowledge is something that you're passionate about. Because there are people who love to learn. But if you're tying the goal of going to school and attaining that degree to a monetary outcome, or because others deem it as prestigious and just want to be able to say, I have this bachelor's degree, I have this master's degree, but you're not passionate about learning and about knowledge and about really growing from the education experience, then that's not a goal you should be investing in. Because what's going to happen is that on your journey towards that goal, when it becomes difficult, because it does, and not saying that you won't be able to do the work, but what I'm saying is that it becomes challenging, especially for individuals who may have multiple responsibilities. So if you're working a full-time job, if you have children, if you have other obligations, when you add school to the mix, it's demanding. And I'm speaking from personal experience as someone who has earned a master's degree. And when I was in school for my master's degree, I didn't have any kids. It was just me and my husband. And I will tell you that it was hard as hell, because the demand and the amount of work that is required, it's a lot. So if you don't love it, and if you're not doing it for the right reasons, it's going to be really easy for you to give up, right? And so what's the purpose of starting something that you're not going to finish? So when you're setting your goals, you want them to be aligned with the things that you value, the things that are most important to you. And, if education is one of those things, then absolutely, yes, go get that degree, right? If happiness is something that you value, then I want you to start thinking about the things that make you happy. Not the things that make other people happy, not the things that make your kids happy or your spouse happy or your parents happy or your friends or any, but when you sit with yourself and allow yourself to think about what makes you happy, right? And make note of that. Make note of the things that excite you. Make note of the types of qualities that are important to you. Kindness, compassion, all of those things. And you make a list. And then as you start thinking about your goals, look at your goals and compare them to the things that you have identified as being most important to you. And do they align? Does it make sense? Because you want your goals to be aligned with your values. When they're aligned with your values, they're going to matter to you. And so when the going gets tough, because it will, you're going to push through it because you're doing something that matters. It's so easy for us to get caught up in what we're seeing, around us and what our friends are doing. And then with social media, it doesn't help, because social media will have you believe that everybody is winning, which could be farther from the truth. I personally know people who are on social media, quote unquote influencers and quote unquote experts, and they're out here giving advice and they're coaching people, and they themselves don't have their lives together. That is the biggest fraud that one could ever commit. And it's sad, because unfortunately there's a lot of people that just don't realize it, and it's because we buy into this perceived image. So I don't want you guys comparing yourselves to what you're seeing on the internet, because a lot of times they are not authentic, despite what they say on their Instagram feeds or on their Facebook lives. And it doesn't matter how many times they use the word authentic and authenticity and all of that. If they are not living it and really showing you what they are doing and how they're doing it and how they're managing and how they're coping, guess what? They're faking it until they make it. And there's nothing wrong with that sometimes, right? But when you're out here promoting yourself as something and making people believe that you're something as a way to solicit money from them, I have a problem with that. Just because you're selling people dreams and you're making them feel inadequate just so that you can earn a buck. And I'm really big on authenticity, and I try to be myself at all times. And so that's why my messaging is very consistent. So whether you're listening to me on my podcast, whether you're watching me on my IG stories, whether you're reading my posts on Instagram, my blogs, my books, if you're with me in person and in real life, I am who I am. I don't hide it. I share my struggles. I share when I've had a bad day. I'm human. In my last episode of the year, I talked about how I've been struggling with the death of my uncle. Every day is a struggle. A lot of times I try not to think about it because that is my coping mechanism right now. But then there are other times where I break down because I'm human. I share my life at home with my husband, with my kids. I share my day job, and so I share. And so when I'm telling you guys something or when I'm offering advice, it's because I've gone through it. And not saying that what works for me is going to work for you, because of course we're different people. But all I can do is share what I know. And then you all can kind of choose what you want to apply to your own life based on your own experiences. So whatever you're doing, whatever you decide to do for this year, wherever you set your intentions, whatever goals you have set for yourself, just make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. Life is short, right? Tomorrow is not promised. And you want to make sure that you are spending every single minute, second of your life doing things that matter to you, doing things that you love, because the last thing you want is to be old and gray and on your deathbed and think about all the things you should have done. And think about all the times you should have said no to others and said yes to yourself. We all live with guilt because we don't want to disappoint others. But what we have to start doing is living with guilt for every single time we disappoint ourselves. Because really, who's more important than you? What's more important than your health? And yes, we have children and we have spouses and they are important. But you know what? Without you being happy, without you being healthy, you're not going to have anything to give these people that you love. And that's why I am so committed to particularly working with women, because we are the center. We are the nucleus of our households. Okay, and we run shit, we manage, and our children look to us for cues on how to exist in the world. We are teachers, whether we want to be or not, especially when we have children. And so for this year, I want you to commit to yourself. Whatever that means to you, whatever work you need to do for yourself, put yourself first, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. You can't even pour from a full cup. Because as soon as you do that, you're giving pieces of yourself away. So you want to make sure that your cup is overflowing. And then the extra, that overflow, that's what you give to others. Okay? So that is my message for this week. I hope you guys are ready to take this year by storm. Leave your footprint on the world. Know that whatever comes your way, You are equipped already with all that you need to handle it. So go out there this week, set your intentions, set those goals, create your vision board, and be ready to crush each and every one of them. Until next time, mi gente, it's your girl Nancy Ruffin signing off.